All right. Are you looking to drive traffic to either content that you're creating to help support your brand or to a physical product to make sales? Well, there's lots of different ways you could do that. And I'm super excited to have with me today the owner of Team Flourish, who is an absolute expert when it comes to Facebook ads. I've got Monica Louie with me here today. Monica, thank you so much for being here to share your knowledge on Facebook ads.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the whole world of Facebook ads.
Sure. So, in 2015, I actually started my first blog called Our Debt Free Family. It was sharing our family's journey out of debt. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had left my corporate job in order to spend more time with my children as they were young. But I knew that with that, my goal was to build a business from home that I could start small and then really grow over time, but really on my own terms, on my own schedule, at my own pace. And so that's where I started learning about blogging and the world of online business, started following people like Pat Flynn, Amy Porterfield. And so I started my blog because people were asking how we had paid off so much debt in a short amount of time. My husband and I, after I left my job, paid off $120,000 of debt on a single middle class income in just two
That's pretty
years.
incredible.
Thank you. It was a lot of hustle. I mean, it was definitely a time where we were very focused on our goal, and we knew that we had a big goal ahead of us, and we needed to make big momentum, big progress in order to keep our momentum up. So with that, people started asking us how we were doing that, knowing we had just gone from two incomes down to one, and then we were all of a sudden paying off all this debt. So I realized that that's how I could start to help people, that I could create a blog and start sharing my message, hopefully inspire others to create their debt freedom plan. And so by following Pat Flynn, Amy Porterfield, that's where I learned from Amy herself about the wonders of Facebook ads and how you could reach more people at a fairly low cost. Just by investing some money, you could share your message with more people and get in front of more people. And you can find those people through the wonderful world of targeting that we have on Facebook. And so I learned Facebook ads from Amy because at the time my blog was fairly new. I only had a few hundred people on my email list, a few hundred people on my Facebook page, and just low traffic. It was still growing to my blog, but I had this important message that I knew people needed to hear. And so I used Facebook ads for my first campaign to promote my webinar. So my live debt freedom training that I was going to take people through how they could create their debt freedom plan. And so I ended up having really great results with my first campaign. And I was really nervous because we were still getting out of debt. We were still, my blog wasn't making money yet, and I didn't have a lot of money to invest. And I really wanted to make sure that I was doing it right. So that's why I studied everything that Amy provided and really put that into my first campaign. So that went well. I ended up getting webinar signups at $1.26 per sign up for that campaign, which is phenomenal. And back then, Amy said that anywhere from $1 to $3 per webinar sign up is really, really good. And so I took my learnings from my first campaign into my second campaign a couple months later in January of 2016. And I was able to bring that cost down to $1.01 per webinar sign up. And so at that time, I was beginning to grow my network in the personal finance space online, and people in the personal finance space, other personal finance bloggers, were getting interested in Facebook ads and how to drive traffic to their blogs, to their content. And so they started reaching out for me to help them with their campaigns. And at first I was a little nervous to step into that role because I knew what had worked for me, but I didn't know if I could translate that to others with other strategies and, other audiences. But as I started to work with one person on one strategy, another person on another strategy, over time I realized that we were all like, everybody I was working with and the strategies that we were working on and the different audiences, it was all working really well. It was performing really well. And not every single campaign hit it out of the park, but overall we were able to work together and test and tweak and figure it out and get really amazing costs. So, and I realized like I was having a lot of fun, and I really loved supporting other entrepreneurs and help growing their businesses. So at the end of 2016, I ended up selling my blog And I dove into first becoming a Facebook ads coach. So I was working privately one-on-one with my clients, teaching them the ins and outs of Facebook ads and how to create campaigns, how to create audiences, how to think through it strategically and put together the ads. And then also as that kind of took off and my schedule started to fill up with one-on-one clients, then I saw that I could help more people at a lower price point by creating an online course. And so in the fall of 2017, I created my course, Flourish with Facebook Ads, and that really has taken off as well to help more people. And I have a group coaching component with that, so I can dive into their campaigns, from anywhere, and really dissect and give them feedback on how to improve their landing pages and their ads and their targeting. And then from there, people started reaching out and asking if I would not teach them Facebook ads, but run their ads for them. So that's where my agency side of my business really grew from. So we started small, just working with one or two clients, developing our processes. I started growing my team. And now, really, over the last year and a half, we've grown and we work with 6 and 7 figure online business owners to help them grow their businesses, reach more people with high converting Facebook ads.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good story there. And I've heard your story before of, how you pay down the debt, which is pretty incredible. And just to give a little context to people listening, is your husband like a surgeon or?
No, thank you for asking, Kevin, because, I like to mention, like, he's not a doctor. He's not a lawyer. He's in law enforcement. And so very much, middle class income. And that's why many of his coworkers who make roughly around the same as he does started asking, like, how is this happening? How are you guys doing that? And really, it came down to being very intentional with our goal and then looking for ways to help us, throw more money at the debt, to bring in more money, to cut on costs where we could. But we made a lot of sacrifices in order to, pay off that amount of debt in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, because like I think everyone kind of has a rough idea of what a police officer makes, and then if you subtract out taxes, that's like almost the whole thing. So, I mean, were you like side hustling at the time? Because I know you said you were kind of transitioning away from the corporate world.
Yeah. So I put all the extra money, like my husband brought in all of that. So we started selling things left and right. So I guess that was
Yeah.
kind of like our side hustle. So we had a very successful garage sale our first month out. We just put everything out, and
Right.
on the driveway, that we wouldn't, we wouldn't be bothered if it sold. So we knew that not everything was going to sell. And we were like, we would look at an item and say, would we rather have money for this item or would we rather keep this item in our house? And so just everything went out there. We had couches, we had, clothes, we had, I'm like computers, like different, knickknacks, things and gadgets and,
Hmm.
anything that we weren't firmly attached to. Kitchenware, kitchenware sold well. So we put everything out there. And then what didn't sell in the garage sale, then my husband continued to sell on Craigslist and OfferUp, and just other ways. And now he still sells things on the Facebook marketplace. We go around our house consistently, do we need this? Nope. Let's see if somebody wants to buy it. If not, we'll donate it. And then he was also working overtime as much as possible. He had the opportunity actually to work in another state when my daughter was 4 months old, my son was 2, to go to another state for 45 days because there was an overtime opportunity there. And so he ended up working double shifts when he was there the entire time. He didn't take an entire day off, like at all, the entire time he was there. He came back, doubled his income, all the extra, went to the debt. So it was just like we took advantage of opportunities. That was kind of, something that we really had to discuss. We had a young baby, and, when he came back, she was going to, have changed, from 4 months to 6 months. They changed so much during that time period. And so anyway, but we talked about it. We knew it was a short period of time, and it'd be a sacrifice that we would make. But in the end, looking back, it would help us get closer to our goal. So there were things like that. And then, so we really hustled like for the first 90,000. And then as like we started to find that we had like fewer items to sell,
Yeah. You can
fewer
only
big
sell so
wins.
much of your existing
Right.
stuff.
We started looking in our house because when we got married in 2009, we bought this big, gorgeous, beautiful house as a short sale. So we got an incredible deal with it. We
Mm.
thought we were going to have to, start with a starter home and then, eventually, buy a bigger home later as our family grew. But we got this incredible deal on this gorgeous house just during the recession. So it had, grown in equity quite a bit. So 6 years later, so we looked at that. We looked at how we had two small kids. We thought our family, was complete. At the time that we bought the house, we thought we might have 3 or 4 kids. But then once we had two, we thought, felt like our family was complete. We realized there were 2 rooms in the house we weren't using. We were always, either together downstairs or always together either upstairs,
Mm.
and so we just saw that like there was this potential that we could downsize and find a house that was the right size for our family and be able to, put a big down payment on that. So, that's how we were able to knock off the additional 30,000 to bring our total in 2 years to 120,000.
Got it. Okay. So it's still fascinating that you did that. And then at the same time, you were learning Facebook ads because everyone's asking you about it, and it evolved into, this business that you have now.
Yeah.
And, just to give everyone a little bit of context too. So you and I met because you were a speaker at Brand Accelerator Live, and we met at Brand Accelerator. And, it was just like, Monica's just got a great sense to her, and she's very good at teaching this stuff. And so I was like, you're the perfect person to come on here and talk about Facebook ads, because there's 1,000,001 people that, at least say they know Facebook ads, but like, I could definitely tell you know your stuff, and you're very
Well, thank
approachable
you.
on it. So let's talk a little bit about, the basic with Facebook ads. Some people have maybe dabbled in it, or they, tried it for, um, a couple weeks, and they said it doesn't work. So what is the basics of, like, how does even the Facebook platform work versus like Google search ads? I mean, like, very basic level.
Sure. And before we dive into that, I want to commend you because Brand Accelerator Live was a fabulous event. I was so honored to be a speaker there. And so, I mean, I hope your audience knows like how much you put into it, and, Scott as well. But I mean, I know that you were really like, putting all the moving pieces together. So anyway, it was a fantastic event, and I really enjoyed my time there, and the people were amazing. And it was great to meet the other speakers as well. And so I just want to say that was such a memorable experience. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I certainly appreciate that. Yeah. So anyway, back
Yes,
into
sorry, Facebook
face.
ads.
No. I'm blushing right now, but yeah. So let's talk about Facebook ads.
Sure.
So let's talk about the very basic level of
Yeah.
Facebook ads. I mean, for people that really aren't sure, and even people that maybe understand a little bit, I know they'll probably pick up some golden nuggets,
Yeah.
even just talking this basic.
Well, when you think about, Google ads, you brought up Google ads and or Amazon ads, as I'm sure your
Right.
audience is familiar with, right? So
That's a
the,
very good analogy.
those are very like search based ads where people
Hmm.
are searching, they're sharing their intent of what they're trying to learn, what they're trying to buy, what they're trying to research it to see if they want to buy or which is the best version to buy. So those are search based platforms. And so Facebook ads is a little different because people are there to, see what's going on with their friends and family, participate in groups that they're a part of. And then, because so many people are there. I mean, there's nearly 2 billion active daily users on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So many people are there that, Facebook naturally has this platform where a lot of people are gathering. And so Facebook, saw early on they can make money by showing ads to these people while they're hanging out on Facebook. And so it's a little bit different. So our approach has to be a little bit different. So we need to pique people's curiosity. It really, with our ads, we need to grab their attention because there are a lot of distractions on Facebook. There are notifications, there are lots of posts from our friends, from our family, from the groups we're a part of. We're getting it, invited to events. There are a lot of things that are competing for our attention. And so when we run an ad on Facebook, we need to think about where people are and, that they're not necessarily searching for a solution. Although if you're doing the targeting right, then you might be able to offer a solution that they didn't realize they were searching for in that moment. But that's where you got to think about, the mindset of the person who's using Facebook versus the mindset when somebody's on Google or on Amazon searching for something. So with Facebook, we basically have these three key pillars that work together in order to have success with your campaigns. So the first one is that you have to have an amazing offer. And so that is what you're presenting in the ad, whatever your offer is. And that could be as simple as a video. It could be a blog post. It could be, your product that you're offering. It could be a free offer that they need to opt into to get on your email list. So whatever that offer is, it needs to be something that people actually want in order to, pull them away from Facebook, distract them for a second from what they're they're doing on Facebook and get them to take action. Then the second piece is that you've got to get that amazing offer in front of the right people. And Facebook gives us loads of options as far as targeting. So we can create a lot of different audiences so that we can find our people. We can create these audiences so that we can get in front of the people who are likely interested in what we have to share, who are likely interested in our products and our offerings. And so that's the important piece, is that you've got to get the amazing offer in front of the right people on Facebook. And then the third piece is that you've got to have that eye-catching ad, and that's how you present the offer. So the ad has to grab their attention, and so stop them and what they're doing, and stop their scroll and get them to either click through and sign up, click through and purchase, or just watch a video if it's like a more like a content piece where they can learn about how your product works, or some piece of informational piece of content as well.
Yeah, it's a good synopsis, because we're in the folks that sell e-commerce, especially that focus on Amazon, like a lot of people listening to this podcast, that it starts off with everything is about keywords, 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 keywords. So everyone's kind of raising their hand and saying, like, if you're selling a garlic press, as our mutual friend Scott has used this analogy many times over the years, then by typing in garlic press, they're saying, I'm interested in garlic presses, not necessarily iPhone cases, because that's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on Facebook, you use the analogy of stopping the scroll. I mean, think about how we all use it. We just keep scrolling. We keep scrolling. So you got to have something that catches their eye, or at least is interested. So, and you mentioned people's interests and things of that nature. So let's say you're selling fishing lures, and you
Sure.
wanted to get in front of people that are into fishing. How might you find people that are into fishing lures, and that you're more likely to catch their attention?
Sure. So there are three different types of audiences that you can create with Facebook so that you can get in front of the people who are likely interested in fishing lures. So the first one is if you have an audience yourself. So your warm audiences, people who already
Mhm.
know you. So that could be people who like your page, people who have engaged with your Facebook page, your email list. If you have the pixel placed on your website, which I hope you do, then you can create an audience based on your website traffic. So if you want to get back in front of your people who already know you in some fashion, you can do that with they're called custom audiences that you can create on Facebook. So that's one way. The second way, where if you want to reach more people who don't quite know you yet, then you can take those custom audiences and you can create what's called lookalike audiences from those. So then what Facebook does is you say, Facebook, I've got my list of customers right here. I'm going to upload it to you. I'm going to give you their information. And then Facebook will match it with their Facebook, profile users. And so it usually does a pretty good job of being able to match, a large percentage of the majority of the people that are going to be able to find successfully on Facebook. So it'll look at those people, your list of buyers, and then it'll say, okay, if you say, I want to create a lookalike audience from it, then Facebook will look at their similarities, their interests, their behaviors, what they're doing on Facebook, their interactions, and then it'll look out, you have to give it a region. So if you say United States, then it'll look at the people who are using Facebook in the United States who are also similar to those people who are already on your list of buyers. So they already have those interests. Facebook knows so much about us. It knows, what websites we're visiting. It knows, what groups we're a part of, what pages we like, what we're interacting with, what we're liking, what we're sharing, what we're commenting on. And so it knows all of that. So it does a pretty good job of categorizing us and knowing our interests. Even if you try, to be more private on Facebook, you can, have different privacy settings, but for the most part, it does a really great job of categorizing us correctly. And so we've found great success with lookalike audiences. So if you have, warm audiences to start with, that's where I would start if you want to grow your audience and find more potential buyers. And then the third type of audience is where you can use the detailed targeting section to create an audience. And that's where you can put in your keywords. You can put in, interests and behaviors and demographics and really create a profile of your ideal customer. So for the garlic press, is that for the mom who's cooking for our family? Is it for the chef, who's cooking at a restaurant? Who is that for? Who's going to be, or use some fishing lures? So I went back to the garlic press, but fishing lures, same thing. So, is that for the hobby fisherman, or is it for somebody who's more serious? serious, who goes, as many days as he can. So who is that for? You can create an audience around people like that. You can find other Facebook pages, other brands that they're following. So you can type those in and see what comes up. So that's how you can create an audience around them.
Yeah, and that makes sense. The challenge with, I think, for a lot of people is Facebook. It's a little bit of priming the pump, right? So it starts off with, you kind of have to have some audience, or you have to build an audience, and that over time, that audience, and Facebook understands your
Yeah. Yes.
product, your audience. Because the challenge a lot of people have that are mostly selling on Amazon, that have dreams of selling more off Amazon and building a brand off Amazon, is that in some ways it's almost like you're starting from scratch, because there's there's black and white rules and there's gray rules. And so like the black and white rule would be, you cannot market to an Amazon customer directly. Now, if anyone's listening to this, what I'm about to say, do not say Kevin told me to go do this. I'm saying do this. I've heard people do this. So if you test this at your own risk, of taking the customer list out of Amazon, putting it into Facebook, and then creating lookalike audiences. I'm not saying whether that's in or out of terms of service, but that's a very gray thing to do. So for this person that says, I want to be black and white and stay on the good side of Amazon, and I won't even upload anything into Facebook, how would they start off? Or if they're just starting out and they just literally started last week and they have, 5 sales on Amazon that they've had with their fishing lure that they just came out with, how would they start from scratch? Because I think that could probably fit both the
Sure.
newbie audience and the new to getting off Amazon audience.
Sure. So the first thing is, I would definitely make sure you have your Facebook pixel installed on your website. I'm hoping you have your own website
Okay.
that you own. And so install your Facebook pixel on the website. And it's
Right.
simple.
So your
It's a
Shopify store or whatever the case is.
Yeah, Shopify, exactly. Yep. So and that will give what the pixel is, it's just a piece of code. I'm not very techy. Even
Right.
though I love Facebook ads, I'm not very techy. But it's just a piece of code that Facebook gives you. It's attached to your ad account. And so you simply just copy and paste it and put it into the back end of your website or Shopify store, whatever it is, any place on the internet that you own, any other landing pages you use, that even if they're outside of your main website, you want to put your Facebook pixel. And that will allow your website to communicate with Facebook, so that Facebook can see who's visiting your website, and then you can create audiences of those website visitors. So very first, even if you're not ready to hit publish on Facebook ads today, get the pixel installed so you can start to build up those audiences when you're ready to use them. And then secondly, once you do hit publish on your campaign, then the algorithm will see who's going to your website, and it will optimize for the people who are taking that action, whether you just want to click through to read your blog post or click through to view your sales page, whatever it is, or even click through and purchase. It'll look at the people who are taking the action that you've told Facebook you want them to take from your ad, and then it'll optimize it to show it to more people who are also likely to take that action. So that's why the pixel is super important. So if you're starting from scratch, don't really have an audience, after you've got your pixel installed, then in creating an audience, I would start by looking at those brands that people who are interested in your fishing lures are already
Oh,
following,
that's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
stores they're visiting, so outdoor stores, sports and outdoor stores, find the big ones. Some smaller ones might come up too, but find really the brands that they are interested, the pages, blogs that they're following. So where are they learning about fishing and how to improve their techniques. I don't really know a lot about fishing, but I assume there's techniques to learn.
I
And
don't really know all that much, other than how to just kind of throw it in and reel.
so think about, get into your ideal customer's mind, and think about and if you're similar, if you created a fishing lure because you love fishing yourself, and think
Mm-hmm.
about where are the places that you're hanging out with, what are the publications, and see what comes up. You can just really simply search in the detailed targeting section to see what comes up. Not everything is going to appear there, but as you start typing things and Facebook kind of understands what kind of topic you're looking for to create an audience around, you can click the suggestions box, and you'll see it just right there in the field where you're typing, and click on that suggestions button, and then give you a drop-down box with more ideas. And so Facebook was trying to help you say, well, maybe, if you're creating an audience around this, then these might be other things that you might want to include in this audience. So my suggestion there is to just, be mindful that it might suggest things that sound similar, but if you don't really know that they are actually related to your brand and your topic, that I wouldn't include them. But because we'll see some things that sound similar, but once we research them, they're totally different. So just be aware of that. But that's how you can start to create an audience of people who are likely interested in what you have to offer.
Yeah, because I've heard it phrased a certain way that it's almost like, you've got, let's say, a customer list, an email list of prospects, and then just people that have viewed something on Facebook, or Facebook kind of knows they're interested in you, that like, that's almost like a list that you just can't see who's on it, but it's a
Right.
list that you can utilize. So it's almost like an asset.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair?
Absolutely. Yes. So that's why you want to have your pixel, so that you can create website visitors audiences.
Mm-hmm.
So people who visited your website, but then also if you do a Facebook Live or
Mm.
upload a video to even just your Facebook page, then you can create an audience of people who've viewed that video. And so if you run a video in your ad, then you can create an audience of people who view that video. So that's your source audience. And you can also use that information to create a lookalike audience to expand that audience even more, to find even more people who are likely interested in the topic that the video is about. And you can do that with several videos. You can group videos together if you want to create a larger audience, or you can just, pick and choose which videos to create an audience with. So that's a great way. If you're into video content, then you can upload, just post on your page, put a little bit money behind it to get more views on that video. And then you can create that audience from there.
Yeah, and that all makes sense, because you can basically, if someone's okay being the face of their brand, they could just, do whatever it is. But if they're not okay being the face of the brand, Facebook allows you to do like almost like slideshow videos, right? Where like you could even just put together, whether it be pictures of your product or pictures of the people might be interested in, like, let's say, fishing pictures with like words on the screen, and just throw in some music. It'll let you do that, right?
Very simply. It's very easy. And we do this with our ads too, because what we found is that little bit of movement
Mm-hmm.
can really help to grab people's attention, as it's coming through their feed, especially if it's something that they're interested in. So if it's about fishing, and you're targeting people who are interested in fishing, it's going to grab their attention. And so then you can, capture them in that audience, so you can get back in front of them with another ad, or use their information. These people are interested, and it can help to create that lookalike audience. So absolutely.
Okay, so like, let's say now we've got a little bit of a lookalike audience of maybe people that have been to um, the store, or they, whether or not they should or shouldn't, they use some other method to get a lookalike audience. But after a while, they've got an audience, or they're just using interest targeting. What is the best thing you should put in front of people to start? Is it the videos, or is it something else? Like, what's the best bang for the buck? Or should they send them to a blog post?
Yeah. So as far as to get the most bang for your buck, I think you're going to be able to do that most of the time with a video, if your goal is to create those audiences and build brand awareness. So if you want to have like a tutorial, instructional video about your product, or even just like, I know you interviewed Tony Anderson. She was talking about
Mm-hmm.
creating content for your audience, for your potential customers that they want to consume. If you're doing that in video form, then you can run that in an ad, build up those video views. If that video is embedded in a blog post, then you can link to that blog post so that people are viewing the video in the ad. And then maybe they want to watch, maybe you just use a snippet of the video in the ad and then say, if you want to learn more, watch the rest, click over here. And that's how you get people to your site. So you're beginning to drive traffic to your site. So that gives you a few different audiences that you've just populated, the video views, and then also your website visitors. So, and then once they're on your site, then you can have them opt into your list, into your email list, so that you can get back in front of them and begin to build that relationship. I know Tony was talking about her funnel on your podcast episode with her. So so I think listen to the strategies that Tony has been using for her products and to grow her audience and to build a relationship. And that's absolutely what people should be doing, because, if you want to especially bring your audience off of Amazon and build that relationship, then you really need to think about it that it is a long-term relationship. So if someone's not in the market to buy today, you want to be top of mind when they are ready to buy, or when they think of, the fisherman in my life, that I want to buy him, the fishing lure that I just saw on Facebook because it looks really cool. And I learned a little bit about it. I see how it's different from others, and so, especially with the holidays coming up,
Mm.
it's a great time to be sharing like holiday gift guides. So think about the different avatars that might be using your product. So we were talking about the garlic press. You have different people who like to cook. Maybe it's the people who are getting ready to plan for the holidays. Maybe it's the people that, they just love to cook, and that can be a great gift item for them. So think about the different ways that you can create content that is going to be applicable to either your target audience or the people who might be buying gifts for your target audience.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one of the things you mentioned there, and well, first off, the episode with Tony Anderson, we'll make sure to link to that, because she really did a good job laying out a lot of content stuff. So we don't have to go too deep in the weeds on content. So we can just everybody can go back and re-listen to that episode. But I think you're right with the Facebook ads. One of the things you said was it's still a long-term play with content in general. So the nice thing about Facebook ads is that you can relatively inexpensively reach people. So like if I was to do a video and I targeted the right people,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of costs, and I know it probably starts with depends, but what kind of costs would we be looking at? Is it like, $10 every time someone views it? Is it, pennies per view? Is it like what generally does it
Yeah.
tend to look like?
Yeah, it's generally pennies per view, and just a few pennies per
Right.
view. Yeah, so I mean that's where you can build up the audience for a relatively low cost, and then you can get back in front of them. For driving traffic to a blog post, that's another strategy that we use a lot with our clients, and so that's where you can drive traffic to. If you say 10 great gifts for the fisherman in your life or something like that, you can have a blog post where each one of those things is a different product. Maybe some of them
Mm-hmm.
are your products, probably. And then you might have some other products that maybe you don't offer, like Tony was mentioning in the episode, but that are alignment. And so you're able to have your affiliate link there. So you can have the potential for some affiliate commission from that blog post. And then you can run that in an ad and target people. And then when driving traffic to a blog post, our goal for our team is generally to get the cost below 10 cents. If it's a more niche topic, so the audience is going to be smaller, just a smaller group of people are going to be interested in that topic, then your cost might be higher, but still, that's a relatively low cost way to drive traffic to your website.
So 10 cents for like basically they're clicking and viewing a blog
The,
post.
the blog post, yes.
Wow, that's pretty
That's
inexpensive.
what
Now
we
is
shoot
that
for
is that people like in the United States, or is that kind of
in the
somewhat
United
worldwide?
States.
In the
Yeah,
US. That's
in the United States. Yeah. And so we work with our clients to kind of narrow in on that topic that we think is going to appeal, that we can position in a way where a lot of people are going to be interested to, click over to learn more. So, so yeah, but for very niche, more niche topics, then the cost is definitely greater than that.
like, and just to put this in perspective. So in my previous life, I worked at an insurance agency, and we we did a lot with Google ads, and a click for a Google ad for now insurance is probably one of the most competitive
Right.
niches there is for Google. But I mean, we were happy with $7 a click. So you're talking about 10 cents a click of people that are interested, that they're viewing the post. And so now they're pixeled. So maybe you don't have them on a list, maybe they've not opted in for like an email list, but now if you have a gift guide you want to show them, or another video, or maybe now you want to put the product in front of them, now you've got people that have raised their hand because they're interested in what Facebook thinks they'd be the right people, and then they clicked on it or they watched through a video or whatever the case is. Now with videos, is it just if they saw it, like that they scrolled through and watched it for 3 seconds, is it a view, or can you niche down to certain types of how much they viewed?
Yes. So it'll capture them if they've watched it for 3 seconds, but then when you're creating your audiences, you can determine Facebook will give you different options based on length of time viewed. So
Hmm.
you can create the larger audience of people who watch 3 seconds or more of the video. So that's going to be the largest audience that you can
Mm,
create, or you can get more specific. Like I want to narrow in on the people who showed more interest. So maybe I want to create an audience of people who watched 50% of my video. And depending on the length of the video, if it's like a few minutes long, 50% or 25%, or 50% might be a good amount. If it's like a longer, like 30-minute video, something like that, then maybe 25% is going to be a good engagement audience for you. So yeah, you can definitely narrow in on the length of time watched. And so just keep in mind that that'll, limit the audience size. But if they're more engaged, then they might be a
right.
better source audience for creating that lookalike audience so that you can find more people like those people who watch the video, more of the video, and then get in front of those people.
So you've mentioned lookalike audience quite a few times, and it almost seems like, each step of the process, it's almost like a new lookalike audience. Is that because you're finding people like, is people maybe like they've taken a couple steps to like read a post and watch a video, that those people are more engaged, so that they're more, so as they've gone through a couple different steps, if you creating lookalike audiences, they're more and more engaged. So hopefully the people like the people that are the most engaged are the best people to kind of put it in the funnel. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. So I mean, we'll look at the goal. What is the goal? Is the goal a sale? So if the
Hmm.
goal is a sale, then we'll start off, well, do we have a list of buyers? Because those are the people
Mm,
who've already taken that action that we want. So let's tell Facebook we want more of these people. And so that's what we'll use. If we're not quite there, that audience isn't big enough, you need to have 100 people in a list, in an email list or a customer list, in order to create a lookalike audience from them based off those people. So if we're not quite there yet, then we work backwards to see, well, then who's the next most engaged? Is it our email list? And we'll create a lookalike audience.
mhm.
If we're promoting a blog post and we know it's already getting good traffic, we'll create an audience of people who've just visited that blog post and then create a lookalike of that. So we always try and be strategic of who's going to be most likely interested in what we're offering through the ad and see if we can create a lookalike audience from those people.
Gotcha. It almost seems kind of like a hunt. Like you keep going and down the road and you're finding more and more and more engaged people. And as you get more and more of those people, you can create more people that are like the most engaged people. Because maybe
Absolutely.
everybody starts off and like you start realizing everyone that likes fishing but also likes nachos, those are the people you really want for your lure. And why, you don't really know, but for whatever reason, the two kind of correlate. And Facebook will figure all that out for you in the back end with lookalike audiences, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I like the idea of starting with the low cost strategies first. So you can build up those custom audiences, begin
Mm.
to, get people familiar with your brand. And then you have those assets that you can use in order to, retarget them with your product. So once people get to, maybe they watch your video, then they get to your blog post about the gift guide where your product, is one of the offers. Maybe, they've joined your email list, maybe not, but then you can get back in front of them with maybe there's a review post of comparing your product versus another one. And then you can, retarget people who visited any of those pages with your product. And maybe some people would be ready to buy, maybe they need more time or it's just not the right time, but you can get back in front of them, but also know that you're creating these assets every time you're showing the ad, you're building up these audiences that you can use for later.
Gotcha. And one little mindset thing I do want to bring up is everybody that sells on Amazon has this mindset of when people go on Amazon, like, and they search for something, they buy. So like, maybe their conversion rate is like 10, 15% on a product that every time someone touches the page, they buy. But Amazon is almost like a fantasy world when it comes to marketing. So when we're talking about, ads, so like, would it ever make sense to take your product and run an ad cold audience, meaning that like you haven't done the video or the blog post
Right.
or any other content in front of them? Would it make any sense to do that?
So if it converts really well, I would always, if it converts really well with cold traffic, you already know this,
Hmm.
then I would certainly test it. We work with a client whose product works really well with retargeting his warm audience. So it's a great
Mm.
product, and our ads retargeting his warm audience of people who've already been checking out the sales page. We just remind them about the
Right.
product, and then it converts really well, and we're able to get a great return on investment with Facebook ads doing that. So I think it depends on your conversion rate. It probably depends on the price point too of your product. Is it something that I need to think about and discuss with my spouse in purchasing, or is it more of an impulse buy, like I need a new garlic press, I'm going to buy that one today. So think, consider that every product is a little different. But if you see that the trend is that cold traffic works great, or then I would start testing the retargeting of your warm audiences first and see how that does, and then test the lookalike audiences of your warm traffic to see if that works well. Because now we're at the point where we started off with that client that I mentioned, where we started off, it was just consistently the warm traffic converted the best. Colder traffic was much more expensive. So we were continuing to drive traffic to his blog posts to build up those audiences. And now we're at the point where a lot of our lookalike audiences are performing amazingly well, some better than the warm traffic. And so so you can get to that point eventually, potentially. Maybe not every product will get to that point where it's going direct to the sale, but you can definitely test it. So if it's already converting well with cold traffic that you see, people are hitting the page and then they're buying, then I would test it with a small budget. You don't need a large budget to test the retargeting of your warm audiences.
Gotcha. So at the end of the day, warm is best, but if you have to start with cold, because maybe you either don't have a list of customers or you've been 100% on Amazon and you don't want to test the waters, and which I'm not saying that I would even suggest someone do that, but I know people that do, where they take their list of customers and they put it on Amazon. That's a very gray area. Just again, saying that, disclaimer for anyone listening to this. But if you have to start from scratch, cold is going to be the most expensive, right? Because Facebook doesn't really know what to work with. So if you're starting with cold, will over time, if you're doing what you're saying of creating lookalikes based on the warmer people that watch the video and then go to the blog post and maybe they hit the sales page, over time, are your results going to get better?
Absolutely. So the algorithm is always working as long as you set up your campaign correctly and you tell Facebook what to optimize for. So what your goal is for this campaign. So if you're running traffic to your blog post, and then your goal is to get people to view the blog post. So to click over from the ad and have what's called a landing page view. Then if you're optimizing for that, then Facebook sees who is actually clicking from your ad. So over time, it'll learn, and it'll collect data, it'll learn who is actually taking that action, and you will see typically your costs will come down over time. So for myself, I started a campaign last week and just a low ad spend, but now my costs have been cut in half. I'm pretty amazed actually, and
Oh
pretty
yeah.
pleased, because you'll see that the cost will start here, and then over time they start to go down, and then it might go up and down a little bit over time. It's not going to be a flat line down, but I mean, over time, the general trend will likely come down. And if you see that it starts to go the other way, where it starts to become a little bit more expensive, then it could just be that ad has run its course. Maybe the audience, if it's a small audience, maybe they've seen the ad, too many times, that they're not taking the action like they once did. So that's where we like to use lookalike audiences, because they're going to be much larger audiences that we have to work with. But and then also it could just be a time of year thing. So if you're running a seasonal ad for the holidays or for the new year, then maybe it's just that ad has run its course because of the season. Other times that will kind of throw ad costs up, where we see this big spike in ad costs. It's usually because of some current event that is just outside of our control. So I know back in we saw this back in 2017 when you guys in Florida had a lot of hurricanes coming your way.
Oh yeah.
During that couple of weeks period, I mean, we saw ad costs shoot up across the board, and it's because people were on Facebook to hear how their loved ones were doing. People were on Facebook to share, we're okay, we're fine. And so people were not paying attention to ads as much. So just know that is the platform, the nature of the platform. When current events, big things like that happen, it can affect ad costs, but usually it's just temporary.
That's a good point. I never heard anyone phrase that, but that's such a good point, that what's happening in the world, if people are more, it's one thing if we've all done it, where like we just take our phone out and we just start scrolling and we're not even really sure why we're doing it. That's probably where it's like best to hit people, because you catch their attention. But if they're like, oh my gosh, all my friends that live in California and there's wildfires, let me make sure
Hmm.
everyone's okay. Are they posting pictures of their kids and they must be okay or whatever? And so they have a different intention,
Right.
and the different intentionality can play a factor in that, because at the end of the day, as you were saying in the beginning, it's all about catching their attention, versus like Amazon ads where it's what keyword did they use, because that's how they're raising their hand to say I'm interested in fishing lures or garlic presses or whatever the case is. So as people start maturing in their Facebook careers, so to speak, and the ads they're running, what are some tips they can do to really fine tune things?
Sure. So it all comes back to the three pillars, actually. So,
Mhm.
is the offer working? Is it still an offer that people want? Are you testing different audiences? So we're always testing different audiences. And just as we talked about, as you're sending traffic here, you're gonna be able to create new audiences and test new lookalikes, maybe different combinations of audiences. But then also it comes down to the ad. So the ad, we always test, we'll write different versions of the ad copy, different headlines. We'll test different creatives. So we might test a static image ad. Usually we'll start there because those are the fastest and easiest to get up. So we'll start with a static image ad while we're working with the client to create a video ad. We might do like a slideshow ad, like you mentioned, or a carousel ad. So testing different creatives can have a dramatic effect on the cost of your ad. Also, even from static image to static image, there's one where we have a image of my client in one photo and then another image of my client in another photo, and I mean it's a 5 cent difference driving traffic to his blog post, which when we're driving traffic to his blog post, that's a huge cut in cost.
Yeah.
So you can test, there's always things that you can test, but usually we'll see the biggest movement as far as cost goes with the creative. And then you can test different headlines, which is the larger text underneath the image or video in the ad, different ad copy. So with your ad copy, you can be speaking to different avatars. So, you can structure ads for your different avatars. If you have different, subsets of your audience, if people are using your product for different purposes, then make sure you're writing ads to those specific people. So that's what we always test. And then we'll also get, as we're running ads, we'll get ideas from the comments on the ad. There's always going to be those skeptics out there that like to share their opinion on the ads, and so we will use that as information that maybe we need to create an ad for those people who have that objection in their mind. So a lot of times those are our
Mm.
best performing ads because we're already addressing the objection head on. So that can be another way. Another way, for my customer that has this product, I mean, one of our best performing ads right now is the one that's about his support team. So once you purchase his product, you're not on your own to figure it out how to use it. He's got a great support team, and so that's why he has so many, raving customers, because they're treated so well after making the purchase. So, there are things like that that you can feature about your product. If your product has been featured in the media, so maybe you got a TV slot, or there's an article written about it, or maybe the owner of the product has been featured somewhere, then you can run traffic ads to those places, and you can actually pixel people on the way using a tool called Pixel Me. So
Okay.
because it's a third party article, so let's say you're featured on Business Insider about creating your product based business. So maybe there's an article then, but it's on Business Insider. We can't really, probably wouldn't get anywhere if we tried to call up Business Insider and say, hey, could you place my pixel, because I want to capture those people going to this article. But what you can do is you can use a tool called Pixel Me, where they can get pixeled from your pixel code on the way from the ad to the article. So that's a way that you can build credibility about your brand, about your products, and then still get back in front of those people with another ad using them in your custom audience.
Yeah, and before, I'm sure probably people are thinking like, oh, I could use Pixelme to my Amazon listing. Now, the thing I'd be very careful about with that, if anyone's getting that idea, because it came to my mind there all of a sudden, I was like, wait, but then I caught myself. It's like, no, 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 Kevin, that's not a good idea. Because the thing with Amazon is if you send too much traffic and it's not converting because you get some looky-loos that click on it, then it could actually hurt the organic ranking for your product if people aren't buying it. But you could run people to a blog post
Absolutely.
offer if they opt in for a coupon code, and then the coupon code shows up or whatever, and then they can click to Amazon. Now, I'd have to look and see Amazon's terms of service about even if pixeling is, I don't know, Amazon's weird about stuff like that. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure if Amazon will let you pixel, but I don't see any reason why. Because Pixel Me, if I'm understanding this correctly, because I've heard of it, but I've never dived into it. So now you've got me curious here. Pixel Me is like, it's basically like the link would be pixelme.com or whatever it is slash
Right.
whatever, and then that forwards to kind of like a pretty link,
Hmm.
except you get to retain the head code or whatever for the, knowing that they clicked on that, so that's
Right.
someone that's interested. So I don't know. I'm starting to ramble a little bit here, so I'm going to jump off that topic here. But any other tips for someone that's either starting out or, just questions you get from clients that would be helpful for someone listening to know?
Yeah. So a big question is, how long should I let my ads run?
Mm,
And, before, realizing that they don't work or there's, an adjustment that needs to be made. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they give up too soon. And you kind of touched on this at the beginning where, a lot of people, we want people in order to get the most out of Facebook ads, you do really need to be in it for the long game because that's how you're going to learn. I mean, your first campaign may not hit it out of the park, and that is okay. But, with any marketing strategy, that's kind of how it goes, right? There's going to be a learning period. And, we talked about the learning phase for Facebook and the algorithm, but you're going to be learning as well, especially if you're brand new to Facebook ads and the platform. You need to learn how to put the campaign together, which audiences over time, as you're testing different audiences, you'll begin to learn which ones are converting the best for you. And then also the types of ads. So what types of ads is your audience resonating with for the various types of offers. So the offers being the blog posts, the video ads, the driving the retargeting back to your product, those kinds of ads. So all of those ads are going to be structured differently. So there's really a learning period involved for you. And so a lot of people give up too soon and think that,
mm,
oh, Facebook ads don't work. But as long as you're testing and really looking at it as like a puzzle that, I just need to find the right pieces and figure out how to put them together in the right way. And then that's where you can have, amazing results. But as far as like hitting publish on your campaign and then, how long do I wait to make any decisions about whether to keep it going or not? With there's a way to set up your campaign called campaign budget optimization that as of February 2020, it's going to be the only way that we can structure our campaigns. And so basically with that, that means that we're putting the budget on the campaign level. As you're setting up the campaign level is where you're telling Facebook the goal of your campaign. And then you put the budget there. And then within the campaign, you'll have different ad sets, which is really the settings for your ads.
kind of like an
And
ad group with Amazon. Yeah.
yeah, and then you'll have your ads themselves that where you design what those are going to look like. So with that, the algorithm will allocate the budget to the different ad sets within the campaign, and it'll determine how much each will get. So with that, it needs a little bit more time for testing. So I used to teach that, give it at least 3 to 4 days before making any decisions. Now it's at least 7 days. And Facebook has told me give it 14 days if you can, because the first 7 days is really that learning period for the algorithm. And then the second 7 days is going to be where you can see what, the data and the results are more likely going to be like over the longer term. So give it at least 7 days. I feel like, for some people that might feel like a long time. But that's what we do is we look at it in between, but we'll definitely be making decisions based on the last 7 day performance to see, how are things going. And then you'll see also with the campaign budget optimization, with the algorithm allocating the budget to your different ad sets, that it might see that it's learning, well, this audience isn't working so well. So it's putting less of the budget to that audience anyway for you. So, so at this point, Facebook is taking on more of those decisions. We still will go in and decide if we want to turn something off, or that ad has run its course, or the campaign, of course, has run its course. But anyway, so just know that the algorithm is looking and trying to help you get the best results. So it's making some of those decisions for you along the way as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. The algorithm's making some of these decisions because at the end of the day, sometimes people have this feeling like Facebook's just trying to take their money. Well,
Yes.
if Facebook was just taking your money, people would go off the platform. And
Right.
so, as I was driving here before we hit record, I was listening to an episode of one of your podcasts, and you had a longtime client on. Now, if Facebook wasn't working for him, he would have gone off of it a long time ago, because at the end of the day, you could say, oh yeah, give it another week or two, but it's not going to be into the years. So
Right.
Facebook must work for people, otherwise they wouldn't do it, right?
Absolutely. And Facebook is always trying to help you get better results. So I mean, it's got the algorithm that's very sophisticated working for you. But then also, as you get going with Facebook ads, it will have its marketing reps reach out and see if they can offer help. And so I always tell my
Mm.
clients and my students that if you're, if Facebook is reaching out to you, get on the phone with them and
Oh
listen to
yeah.
what they have to say, because they might have a good idea, but they also, it's nice to have that relationship with somebody at Facebook.
Mm.
And so, they have that outreach, because I've definitely heard it where people say, Facebook just wants to take your money. And, but really, I think they are there to help support their advertisers. But they're also, they're a business, and they need to make sure that their users aren't fleeing the platform either. So another tip would be to just make sure you're aware of the ad policies, and that they can change over time, and they do change over time. So make sure that you're looking at those, especially when you're getting started with Facebook ads, but then go back to them every so often as you're getting ready to run a new campaign, because you want to make sure that you are complying with their policies. Because at the end of the day, Facebook wants the platform to be a great user experience. So that's why you've got to, be mindful of the language and the images that you're using in your ads, and so that your ads can get approved. If we're, if we're selling products, then we're probably, not going to run into this, but just make sure that you're aware of what the ad policies, and see if anything might apply. Like there are certain ones around like health and fitness and things like that. So just read over those and see if there are any right now that might apply to you or your brand or your business, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're violating the ad policies and your ad account gets shut down. And that's not that. If that happens, it can be difficult to get the ad account back. So a big recommendation is to make sure that you are aware of the ad policies and that you're doing your best to stay in compliance with those.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because everyone listening to this, if they do have experience on Amazon, they know there's policies, and as long as you play by the rules, everything goes well. But when you don't play by the
Right.
rules, that's when things get shut down. So, well, awesome. This has been a great conversation. So, if somebody's listening and they want to find out more about Team Flourish, where would they go?
Sure. So my website is monicalouie.com. And I do have my free Facebook ad starter kit that I'd love to offer to your audience. And they can find that at monicalouie.com/Kevin.
All
They
right.
can grab that. And we do have a link there too, if you are interested in learning more about working with my team and me. But then I also, if you like podcasts, I have the Flourish to Seven Figures podcast. Kevin and I were talking before that we launched our podcast on the same day this year.
That's so
And
crazy.
so, yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. And I have a lot of great guests, as you mentioned. John from Frugal Rules is on the podcast. But also, I do a lot of solo shows where I'm teaching. Right now, I'm teaching a lot about Facebook ads, because I want to set that foundational work so that you can go back to those episodes if you want to, learn more, dive deeper on this topic. So, talk a lot about audiences and targeting and strategy, and a lot of the things that we've talked about there. I have specific episodes for all of those as well. And that podcast is Flourish to Seven Figures. And you can find that at flourishto7figures.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll make sure to link to that, all that in the show notes. And I would definitely recommend someone checking out your podcast. I listen to it and, I get a lot out of it because you are very approachable in how you say things. Sometimes people will get a little too technical and all that they're talking about, but, you say it in a good actionable standpoint that, is approachable, especially for someone that's not necessarily like in Facebook ads all day. So, you know, you do a good job dumbing it down for people like me.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Monica.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks. Take care.